Well, hello there, friends and lovers. And thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy, Nasir, and you. And we are glad you are here. Today is Sunday, August 10th, 2025, the 222nd day of this, your best year yet. You've got 143 days left in the year, 137 days until Christmas, only 82 days until Halloween.
Very cool.
And this was interesting to me, 43 days left of summer in the Northern Hemisphere, only 43 days left of winter if you are down under. We were talking the other day and thinking, man, summer is gone so quick. What do you mean gone? We still got 43 days left. We've still got half the summer ahead of us. It's going to be good. In the United States, we tend to think of Memorial Day weekend as the end of summer and kids back in school. Push on, all of that. We've got beach day coming up. We've got more tree running coming up. We've got adventures, and I hope you do too in these 43 days left of this outstanding summer.
Yes.
And it is August 10th, and a couple things happened on August 10th. We'll go real quick today. This could be one of those 5-minute shows. On August 10th, 1776. Well, we all know what happened in 1776, and it was on August 10th that London learned of the American Declaration of Independence. It got through. You think, what do you mean? Why not July 4th? Well, it turns out if you don't have an internet and you don't have cell phones, you don't even have telephones or telegraphs, stuff takes time. August 10th, 1776, news reaches London that the Americans had drafted their Declaration of Independence. Until the Declaration of Independence formally transformed the 13 British colonies into states. Both Americans and the British saw the conflict centered in Massachusetts as a local uprising within the British Empire. Oh yeah, we weren't really America yet.
Mm-hmm.
How weird. That's going to tie into what happened just a few years later, August 10th, 1793, the Louvre, I never know what to do with that R in there. The Louvre Museum opens in Paris.
You go Louvre, and then you go ra, like a little bit of rolling of the tongue. Louvre.
Yeah.
Or you could do Louvre. You could do that whole guttural thing.
Yes.
But you don't want to do that.
Well, the French put a lot of extra letters in their words that you're not supposed to pronounce, but you can kind of hear, like, when they say the word, it has kind of a hint of that letter, and when Americans say it, it is, rive gauche. It's unacceptable.
And my only understanding of the French language in an oral capacity is that they're all telepaths, and that's the only way that they can understand each other, because their spoken language is so ridiculous.
We know when you leave a French restaurant, they get together and say, oh my God, and talk all about us and all of the extra letters we didn't pronounce and then tried to pronounce. And I joke, but only a little bit. We went to Paris, and Amy, you speak French, and you tried to speak French.
Well, they won't let me speak French unless I'm actually French, and they can tell.
It's unacceptable. If you, a little French. No, please. It's okay. I speak English.
I mean, hopefully it's gotten better. I hope it's gotten better because I would think it'd be better for them to
you would think, but it's
let
only
people just to kind of practice a little bit.
Well, it's only been a few years since we were there. I hope they've improved. I do, but it's a long-standing thing. Anyway, it's interesting to me because when we talked about Paris and have talked about Paris since then, and we didn't badmouth the Louvre, but we didn't give it that much credit either. And it really is amazing. It's extraordinary. What I didn't know is that the original palace on which it was built was actually built back in 1190. So for August 10th, today, 1793, for it to be opened as a museum, it's a fascinating history. And coincidentally, or not coincidentally, but related to that, 1846, so jump forward 53 years, the Smithsonian Institution is created in the United States. And if you have a chance to go to Washington, D.C., or any of the places where buildings that are part of now the expanded Smithsonian Institution are, you should go. Amazing, amazing stuff. And there's a link to the history of it in the notes. These things don't just pop up out of nowhere. They have histories behind them. And more important than that, they have people behind them. And people opted, chose, invested the capital, or in the case of the Louvre, the king invested the capital in the palace. But these things don't pop up out of nowhere. And they are amazing places you should see if you get the chance to travel. And related to that, and see if you can figure out the common thread here, it's the birthday of Henri Nestle.
You'll have to remind me who that is.
Nestle. Nestle chocolate.
Nestle.
The Nestle brand, which is now, of course, a food conglomerate that makes everything. Henri Nestle, with a little accent over it. No, he's not Henri Nestle. He was born Heinrich Nestle in Germany. He migrated to Switzerland, so, of course, he could produce his Swiss chocolates. And he decided that, Heinrich Nestle was not as appetizing a name as a French name would be.
Oh.
So this German confectioner, and he wasn't just a confectioner, he was actually trained to be a pharmacist, but, well, because you work with the Greenfield Village, pharmacy and chocolate were related. And apparently, if you knew something about pharmacy and how to mix pharmaceutical ingredients, you also knew something about how to make chocolate. In any event, he went to Switzerland and became famous for medicines and experiments and prescriptions and ultimately and eventually chocolate. And this is the day that he was born. Now, what have we got? We've got the Louvre, we've got the Smithsonian, we've got Henri Nestle. Also, this is the birth date of Leo Fender.
I think I know who Fender is.
Fender, the Stratocaster guy, the Telecaster guy, the P-Bass. Yes, the Fender Musical Instrument Company. Another guy who he wasn't born Leo, or he kind of was. His name was Clarence. Born Clarence Leonidas Fender, 1909.
Did he have Leonidas?
Apparently he had a bad case of Leonidas when he was born. What's interesting, some of you musicians will know, but might not know why. Leo Fender couldn't play guitar. He never learned how to play guitar or bass.
Interesting.
You would think the guy who started what may be at least one of the largest guitar companies in the world would have known how to play guitar. Well, no, it turns out that he started his own radio repair shop. And, back in 1938, that meant tube-based amplifiers. And, amplified music was becoming a thing in the big band circuit. So he had musicians and band leaders coming into the repair shop for PA systems, public address systems, sound systems, and amplification for instruments. And then amplified acoustic guitars ultimately led to amplified electric guitars. And he got together with a partner, Clayton, or they called him Doc Kaufman, who was a lap steel player. He was actually a guy who could play guitar. And he had worked for Rickenbacker, another instrument manufacturer. And they came up with a guitar, and they started the K&F Manufacturing Corporation. That would be Kaufman and Fender. And then eventually Kaufman bowed out. And they had a patented lap guitar, and Fender just kept making guitars even after Doc left the business. And that is why Leo Fender, born on this date, started the great guitar company and could never play guitar because it was his partner who brought guitars into the business. Okay, we've got the Louvre, the Smithsonian, we've got Fender, we've got Nestle. It's also Duran Duran Appreciation Day. And I say that because we're in Detroit. Duran Duran, of course, British band, not a Detroit band, but Duran Duran Appreciation Day was started on a whim, I think, by a DJ in Detroit, Michigan. And what has August 10th got to do with Duran Duran? And the short answer is nothing. It was the guy's birthday, and so he wanted to do it on his own freaking birthday. But it caught on. It got published in a popular youth magazine YM Magazine. I had to look that up. What is YM Magazine? Young and Modern. Well, can't get any better than that. And it caught on, and it went around the internet, and now it's a thing. So tell me in the chat. I haven't gotten into the chat yet, which I need to do. If you're a Duran Duran fan, what your favorite album or song is. Anything else that you might have about that. Now we've got 5 items. I'm just going to stop there. That's all the on this date background, all I'm going to do.
Do we want to stop for about your favorite Duran Duran song? Or
My favorite Duran Duran song. It's always been a simple, straightforward rock and roll song called "Don't." Why? See, I'm getting to that point where titles.
Well, give me a lyric.
No, the song is called "Hold Back the Rain."
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and there's a couple versions of it out there. You've got to catch the original from the album Rio. The remastered ones, they do a little more of their sort of dance and synth stuff, and it takes the rock and roll edge off of it. You don't want that. Listen to the full version from the original album.
I'd have to say my favorite Duran Duran song is Last Chance on the Stairway.
Oh, another one from Rio, and a very good song.
Yeah, it's not well known, but
Yes.
it's a great song, and it includes either, I don't know if it was a xylophone or marimba that they used in the song, but it was fantastic.
Yes. Oh, we got some good, right in the chat here, Ian says her name is Rio. Yeah, Rio. Well, Rio is a great song, a fun bass line to play, too. Great song.
Well, those bass lines are
that's true.
mighty
all
hard.
Of the bass lines. Yeah. Yeah. How did they have 3 musicians all with the same last name, Taylor, and none of them are related? Go figure.
Well, they're from England.
But yeah, John Taylor is an amazing bass player. Stephen Katz says "Hungry Like the Wolf." The most famous, huh? Well, that may be. Actually, it's a fun song to play on guitar. You can play that on acoustic guitar and do a credible version of it, if not an incredible one. Christopher Smith says the Bond one, "A View to a Kill." Well,
Yeah.
that was great. They got to do a Bond theme. You know, you've arrived if you can do the title song of a Bond movie.
Well, and anything that's semi-related to Grace Jones is awesome.
That's true. That's true. They even managed to get her in the video.
Yes.
Ian Gilmore says, well, I hated Duran Duran back in the 80s. Too poppy for me at the time.
Huh.
I didn't have that reaction, but I could totally see it. Because there were some 80s bands I hated, and it usually my standard, I was going to say teenage stuff, but I was probably in my 20s for most of that.
If you were a quirky 12-year-old girl, Ian, you would have liked them.
Oh, God, yes. Christopher Smith says, Ordinary World is haunting. I agree. I actually recently covered that on one of the Facebook forums. Acoustic guitar, and oh, yeah, that one gets me. Amy hates that song.
I hate that song
and I love
so
it
much.
So, who said couples can't have different
disagree.
values?
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ian says, now I appreciate the musicianship. They were actually good musicians.
Oh, they were
And there
fantastic.
was so much fashion and all of the glamour and all of that, yeah, sometimes you thought, I don't know, are they really that good? I mean, the Monkees were great, but they didn't play their own instruments. Well, eventually they did. But point is, you didn't know, are they authentic? Are they really as cool as their music sounds from a musician's point of view, and not just that they were awfully pretty? Yeah. Absolutely get that. Stephen Katz says "Lonely in Your Nightmare." That is a good title. It's actually a good song too.
Yeah.
The only thing about that song is you get the impression they didn't know how to end it.
Oh yeah, it wasn't ended very well.
Yeah,
that was, I think, from their first album.
They repeat the chorus one too many times, and then they change to the parallel major of the key. Which is kind of a way to wimp out. Do 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 do, like a little sing-song ending.
Yeah. But from that album, from their first album, I really loved The Sound of Thunder. Great song.
Yeah. So, let's see. Duran Duran, Leo Fender, Nestle, Louvre, Smithsonian. I don't have our take on the news for this week. In fact, this may be a really short show. Intentionally. If you look in the show notes, our take on the news is just the objectivist roll call. And I'm curious about this. Those of you who are listening live, who are in the chat. Oh, sorry. I just realized I've been missing the Facebook side of the chat. Jim Ashley, of course, has checked in both places, which is awfully cool of him. And Narendra is catching us live as well. But Jim says, didn't the apothecary who was Vianne's father in the story of her parents in Chocolat
Yep.
make chocolate using cacao? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And so he was his own Nestle, except the special cacao they used, brought visions, and I don't know if Nestle experimented with anything like that. Although he was a pharmacist as well, so who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, in our take on the news segment, all I've got is an objectivist roll call. And here's what's on my list. And what I want to know from you in the chat is, what did I miss? What should we be, or I be, all of us be listening to, at least periodically, that's not on the list in the objectivist roll call? Because right now in the list, I've got the Yaron Brook Show.
Mm-hmm.
You would think I would put the Ayn Rand Institute first, and maybe I should, but I think Yaron actually gets more views than the ARI podcast. They're great podcasts.
Yeah.
The last one, most recently, in fact, was both Ben and Augusta. So
Augustina.
Augustina.
Yeah.
I say Augusta, I guess because I'm... anyway, yeah. Good shows, but Yaron just seems to be on top of it all. Newcomers, the Capitalist Corner, of course, with Leibowitz and Pellegrino. It's funny, I went back, and they've been around longer than I realized. I still feel like they're the new kids on the block. Not like the band, but just newcomers. I hate the expression newbies, but you get the idea. And then there's The Rational Egoist, which is Mike's solo podcast.
Yep.
Recorded interviews, edited, not like Mark and Michael are always live. So both of those. Under newcomers, Dan Norton, is he really that new? I guess he's been around for a while now. Maybe it's just that I've only been listening to him recently. Kirk Barbera posted recently on the Troubadour channel. And a big surprise, and one of the reasons why this came up for me, this week, after months and months and months of not doing anything, Lee Pearson's back with The Cutting Edge.
Oh, right.
And that's always interesting. He's usually joined by Steve Richens and Dr. Bob Stubblefield. What else? What else is out there? For example, I know Deb, I always forget her last name, Deb, down south. She's doing her The Reason We Learn podcast. And you can see there's a double meaning there. The reason we learn reason, and we have reasons to learn. It's her criticizing public education and advocating for private education. And that's great.
Oh, that's Deb Philman.
Thank you. And her most recent episode, oh God, she devotes herself to taking Yaron Brook to task. Yaron Brook, in one of his recent episodes, mentioned he's been getting criticism for advocating incrementalism.
Oh.
Which, to the critics, means he's compromising. He's compromising his principles. He wants freedom by increments, by little bits and pieces, and he's willing to accept a lot of violations of freedom. And, just if we can get a little closer, if we can get...
Yeah, and that's wrong because the general culture in the United States of America is so very much geared towards rational egoism. They love it. They love rationality. They love rational egoism. They completely reject altruism.
Well,
and you know what? Altruism just doesn't have any bearing on politics anymore.
I know you're I know you're being sarcastic, but it sounds like you are advocating incrementalism when you use that sarcasm.
I am very much advocating. I agree with Yaron Brook. I think that this is why we have.
Now you're doubling the sarcasm, so I can't tell if you're criticizing your honor.
And sarcasm.
Okay, what are you saying?
I'm saying that I totally agree with Yaron Brook about incrementalism.
Well, Yaron Brook says he's not an incrementalist.
Well,
and he doesn't advocate incrementalism.
But so let's just redefine our terms here.
Good.
In terms of like phasing out Social Security, if you want to call that incrementalism, then I agree. This is incrementalism,
right?
Whatever.
Right.
If you are in favor of school vouchers to whittle down the highly bureaucratic system that we have right now, I'm very much in favor of it.
How can you say that? That means the government still gets to decide what's a valid school and where your vouchers can be used. How can you compromise in the direction of freedom.
Even though it may not seem this way, or you may not want it to be this way, the government, like it or not, is run for the people, by the people. And most people in the United States of America agree with the politicians that they vote for. And you can call me crazy, but that's the reality of it.
Well, you're not alone in that craziness. In the chat, Race says, transitional steps toward liberty is all but inevitable.
Yeah.
No, I want it all, and I want it now. It's
Chop,
you know,
chop.
I don't want to accuse Deb of Veruca Saltism, the character in Charlie and the Glass Elevator, or the movie version of that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, okay.
But Veruca Salt was the spoiled little girl who would stomp her feet and say, I want it, and I want it now.
I would not compare her to that, but although I haven't
want freedom, and I want it now.
Yeah, well, I feel that. I feel that.
I do feel it. That's true.
I feel that.
I would never say, give me steps in the direction of freedom, and I don't expect any more, and it's all good, and I love you so much for giving me a little bit of... No, I would not do that. If that's what you think incrementalism is, I would say, check your premises. But it was interesting, yeah, that Yaron received that criticism.
So who is the Judge Narragansett in Atlas Shrugged in Galt's Gulch?
Yes.
He's sitting there, he's writing ways in which to basically dismantle the systems that we have and rebuild on them. I forget exactly how it was put in Atlas Shrugged, but to my understanding, that's what he was doing. In other words, the idea of political science is valid. It's there's a certain way to go about it. You don't just say, hey, let's install the benevolent, techno bro autocrat, and then they'll do everything like Mr. Thompson wanted John Galt to do. You don't get it to do that way. That's not what this is not how the world works. And yeah. But anyway, Yaron Brook explained that, I think, pretty well.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I got distracted because Ian Gilmore says Seether. And this is a guy who knows Veruca Salt. Veruca Salt isn't just a character. There's a rock band out there named after the character. And Seether was the name of their first single. Yeah.
Yeah. Rock on.
Yep. Of course, my I discovered them when the song Volcano Girls came out.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Another one of those songs nobody knows by its title. Most people know the chorus.
Which is?
Leave me lying here because I don't want to go.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, another song nobody actually knows by its title. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Dan Nolan says, you can't lose 50 pounds of body fat in one day.
You can't.
You must do it in increments. Incrementalism. I don't know, Dan. If I can't do it on principle, which means, all or nothing all at once.
It really, defining terms is a really good thing to do. We once had, this is a long, long time ago, there was a guy who came to a particular, not one of our Great Lakes objectivist groups meetings, but a different objectivist group meeting. Anyway, he came in and he accused Ayn Rand of being a collectivist. Because she collected stamps. But he wasn't joking. And we got into, one of those not shouting matches, but, one of those argumentative stances where, people start pointing their fingers at each other. It just didn't.
I remember that.
You remember
I was
that.
not argumentative. I was dismissive.
You
can't argue with a sick mind, to steal an album title from Joe Walsh. Yeah, yeah. There are people out there, especially in comedians, in the community of comedians out there, who have a shtick, and they have to stick by their shtick. You, as the audience, they can't let you in. They can't let you see that there's somebody beyond the mask. And yet, when they do something really malicious, you're supposed to forgive them because you know that's their shtick. That's what makes them funny. That's what makes what they do work. And I will always say, no. You don't get both. You can't have it both ways. You can either take all the lumps that come with doing that shtick, or at some point you have to let people see beyond the mask. And this clown at this objectivist group meeting, I think it was at the Sweden House.
Yeah,
way back in the old days when that place still existed. He would not drop the mask. I don't think he was insane, so he can't possibly have really believed what he was saying.
Well, it was one of those situations where you get somebody who thinks he has a clever idea, he presents it, and then he realizes that he's getting pushback, but he doesn't want to give it up. He doesn't want to admit that he was actually mistaken. And I think that was one of those situations.
Or that his joke wasn't that funny. Or clever. That's not even funny, but clever. It was clear that he wanted to be thought of as really clever.
Yeah.
But folks, don't do that. Do the things and make the jokes and have all of the fun. But if you ever find yourself having to acknowledge reality, the truth, the fact, the meaning behind something, have the cojones to say, oh, yeah, I guess that was pretty silly. With that said, yeah, the idea that Yarenbrook is guilty of incrementalism. So, yeah, if I missed anything on my list of my objectives roll call, please let me know. And the common denominator that's been on my mind since last night at Great Lakes Objectivists.
Yes.
GLOW got together. It was a very small meeting.
But it was nice in that way.
I missed a lot of our regulars.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun because we had a newcomer,
Yeah.
Friend Harper. Well, not his Christian name, but if you know Friend Harper from the Yarenbrook Show chat, you know who I'm talking about, came. And he's in Grand Rapids, and if you know Michigan, that's quite a drive. So that was very cool of him to make the trip. Paul, of course, was here. Always good to have Paul and Steve. And that was it. There's 5 of us. We had
good. It was
10 pounds of food and 5 people to eat it. And one of us, and I won't say who, was fasting, so it was only 4 people eating. But it was good. It was a good session. It was a good conversation.
It was. I really enjoyed it, and we all got a chance to read. We actually read the entire "What is Capitalism" article out loud,
which is actually longer than the Ford Hall Forum version.
It took us about 2 hours to get through it, but we stopped and we discussed and and then we picked back up.
Sorry, I just realized, or didn't realize, but Stephen Katz mentioned, well, does ARC UK still have content? I don't think you mentioned them. I forgot. I just completely forgot. And I saw them in my list, and then I forgot to add them to my show notes.
No, they're there. They're there.
And
they're there.
So I don't mean to give them short shrift. In order to find their Ayn Rand related content, you do have to poke a little deep. If you're a paying member, and I still am, they have Sunday morning sessions, for example, that James Valiant leads, that are very good study content for Ayn Rand and Leonard Peikoff.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they would change the time for that, because that's exactly the same time as my flamenco practice every week.
Yeah, and I miss it too whenever we're doing live music. So I'm joining you for flamenco. But they're daily shows, they're weekday shows, and both of them, the Daily Objective and the reality show, are entirely focused on the Middle East conflict right now.
Yeah, which is fine. They can do what they want. Let their freak flag fly.
No, I get it. And it's not that that's not important content on its own merits, but it doesn't come to mind for me when I think of Ayn Rand or objectivism related.
Let their Israeli flag fly.
No, again,
And No, it's
I'm
fine.
not criticizing what they're doing. I'm just making the point that
Yeah, it's
not very Ayn Rand.
Yeah,
That's all.
it's not really Ayn Rand roll call material.
But it's important work, and
Yeah.
they are doing it, and it does belong in the roll call. So thank you for pointing that out, and I will add them to the show notes and get them on the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the common denominator: Smithsonian, Louvre, chocolate, Nestle, Leo Fender, electric guitars. Values. Is it values? Is it values that are the common denominator? Things in the world that we value? Not exactly. But that would be your best clue there. And the answer is they were all things that were created. They were all things that were produced. They didn't come from nowhere, and they didn't come from society as a whole. See, last night at Great Lakes Objectivists at GLOW, we talked about Ayn Rand's essay and speech, What is Capitalism?
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, the speech, the version delivered at the Ford Hall Forum, the short version, she starts right at the very beginning. If you're going to talk about social systems, groups of men, you need to start with the nature of man. What is a man? And the important point to the topic at hand is the values that we need to survive need to be created. We don't live in a Garden of Eden. We have requirements of life. How are those values created? Where do they come from? How do we sustain ourselves? Through the use of reason. And reason is an attribute of the individual human mind. Everything flows from that. So when I consider art or an art museum, when I consider music or the instruments that produce it, when I consider chocolate, sweets, confectionaries, food, and the industrialists who create the businesses that do that, you can look at their individual stories. You know, Nestle starts out with a little shop doing little things and is now, mega conglomerate of the world. When we watch a show like The Gilded Age, which we've been enjoying, although apparently we've got a big cliffhanger coming up tonight, and we look at these very, very wealthy people, there's a bit of a bias in the writing, and yeah, I get it, and you expect that, and it's a little bit cringe, but it's mostly good. And when we look at these wealthy industrialists, we can see the steps by which they began. Often just with an idea, just by producing or by starting small and working their way up. Yarenbrook is fond of saying, and he said it recently again, the American system is not a capitalist system. And he's not the only one. Countless objectivists, Ayn Rand fans will say, well, America, yeah, it's kind of a mess, but that's because we're not capitalists. We call ourselves capitalists, but we're not capitalists. Well, we're not socialists. We often will say, well, yeah, Sweden is socialist. Scandinavian countries, no, they're not. And Yaren's good about this. He will make the point. Sweden is not socialist. They're a mixed economy, kind of like us. In fact, they're freer than us in a few ways, and they're substantially more controlled than others. Venezuela is closer to a socialist country. And I know some of you will say, well, Venezuela isn't socialist. Isn't it a dictatorship? But that's not either or. How else do you enforce the dictates of socialism? Even under so-called democratic socialism, the vox populi, the voice of the people. When once vox populi has spoken, the state will be enforcing whatever the populi voxed. No. We're not fully capitalist. We're certainly not socialist. We're somewhere in the middle. We're and not middle, but a mixture. Mm-hmm. That changes nothing about the fact that each of us, we're on our own. But the good news is we're on our own. It's all in your hands. That's power. That's opportunity. You are in exactly the same position as Heinrich or Henri Nestle. You are in the same position as everybody who has ever said, I'm going to try. I'm going to do something. I've got this thing I want to do and I'm going to do it. There was a essay linked to in the show notes. 17 best $1 million business ideas to start in 2025.
Wow.
I said before, we have said before in our show, Recipes and Scripts, you don't need to discover how to make $1 million because the recipe's already out there. The script's already been written. It's easy. And if you're looking for new versions of it, just look online. I mean, nowadays you can go to ChatGPT or any of the better AI engines and say, here are 10 things I enjoy or I'm interested in. How do I leverage that interest to make $1 million or $10 million? You can give it numbers and it will scale its advice to whatever you've got in mind. So Shopify, who wants to be your credit card handler, has 17 best $1 million business ideas to start in 2025. And you think, well, obviously I need to come up with $1 million idea. Well, one of their 17 ideas is sell. I don't want to sell. I don't want to be a salesman. I want to be an innovator, an inventor. You'll get to do that. But one of the secrets to making $1 million or any particular amount of wealth is you have to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do not want to do. You've got to be willing to do that. So think about this. Go with me for a minute. Their idea number one is sell a golden trifecta product. In other words, you could drop ship something. You could get water bottles and put a cute idea on it, whatever it is. And you could do that. You can make $1 million just drop shipping. Order something from overseas. Don't have them send it to you, but design it, work with a company, and then take orders online, send the orders to that company, and they will ship it to your customers while you sit at home. You think, well, that doesn't really work, though. A lot of people try that and it doesn't work. Do it well and it will work. So what are the 3 things, this trifecta, they recommend? Number 1, find a lightweight product that's easy to handle and cheap to ship. Lightweight product, what's that got to do with anything? Well, if you know what shipping costs are like these days, you know why they choose a lightweight product. So that's number 1. There's more details in the essay. Number 2, choose products with high perceived value but affordable production costs. That's why water bottles comes up. It costs nothing to make a water bottle. Plastic items cost, the incremental cost is practically 0, but they have high perceived value. It's amazing to me that we still drink bottled water. I drink bottled water. I buy cases of water. If you had asked me 50 years ago, I was alive 50 years, I was a little kid. If you had asked me 40 years ago, are you ever going to get into bottled water? I don't even know where we had bottled water 40 years ago. Like, why wouldn't I just drink tap water? Now we all drink bottled. Anyway, point is, high perceived value but affordable production costs. And number 3, look for products trending. Go on social media. A visually striking product can seriously boost your online presence and sales. Okay, that's just one. That's one item, and anybody could do it. I'm going to make a point here, so the details here aren't that important. Number 2, you can iterate. In other words, you can do the same thing, extend it out, from an existing product. Look at stuff that's already out there. Seltzer waters, for example, got to be big recently. And they were always around, but it got to be big. Well, latch on to that trend before it goes down. Make some money. You can get out if you have to. Launch a brand built for social media. And there are instructions on how to do that. What works on social media? I don't care about that. I don't want to do that. No, okay, maybe that's not how you're going to make your million. Build a business around your purpose. Well, my purpose isn't that interesting. No, actually, there are ways to take what you're interested in and make it interesting. All of this, and there are 17 of these ideas, all of this takes work. All of it takes effort. Henri Nestle, it took him work, it took him effort. And He was doing something other people were doing, just like you will be doing something other people are doing. Point is, the recipes, the scripts are already out there. To make $1 zillion, figure out what people want that nobody else is producing. Figure out what other people don't want to do, that they refuse to do even though it has value, and go out and do it. Okay, maybe that's too entrepreneurial. Maybe that's too woo, too out there. There are some basic ideas for producing wealth. Get a job and then spend less money than you earn. I'm not making enough money to spend less money than I earn. Then get a higher paying job or figure out how to budget tighter. Okay, you don't want to live a frugal life. That's boring. That's not interesting. But if you can spend less than you earn, you will build capital. So don't borrow for capital unless it's going to be built, unless it's for production, not consumption. But I really mean it. Do things that other people don't like doing and will not do. The bottom line is, per Ayn Rand's essay, what is capitalism? There are 3 C's of capitalism: creation, cooperation, competition. You create something, you cooperate, which means you work with other people, you bring in workers, you expand. And competition. You have a plan, and you don't have to defeat every other market. You just have to do well on the playing field. People say, well, a lot of companies, they're not the number one. Yeah, you don't have to be number one. You can be number 2, you can be number 3 and make $1 zillion. But the primary of those 3 C's is creation. And creation doesn't have to be brilliant. It doesn't have to be a genius idea. We look at people who, invent the cell phone, people who come with this brilliant new idea, brilliant new computer program, a brilliant new thing, and think, yeah, but I don't have a brilliant idea. Creation doesn't have to be brilliant. All it has to be is good. All it has to be is, I've got something that is of value. Might be the best, might be in the middle, might be just okay, but it's of value. People will pay for it, or pay for me to do it, or pay to see me do it. And if I put in the effort, if I do the thing, if I do the thinking and then I take the action, I can be one of those people. Most of you do it already. You do it on your job. You go into your job and you produce more than you consume. You make more happen than what your paycheck pays you, obviously, or they wouldn't pay you for it. The point is, it's not magic. It's not a miracle. It's not luck, although some people are luckier than others. But as Will Rogers just reminds us, the harder I work, the luckier I get. The bottom line is create. Ayn Rand was right. Reason is man's means of survival. Everything good we have comes from here. And before wrapping up on this, I want to reiterate a point that she makes in her talk that she also made in Atlas Shrugged. Some folks have talked about this, but it doesn't get talked about enough. And it's the pyramid of ability. We brought up, and I used it in a Life on Earth episode, but I don't have the graphic handy. The old pyramid of capitalism. And this was the socialists and the communists trying to spread bad juju about capitalism. And they had the kings up at the top, and then the priests, and then the military, but it was not, military of a free nation. It was a bad military. And then they had all these capitalists, the fat cats. And they're all on layers, like on a layer cake. And the people up above are kind of resting on the people further down. And then at the very bottom, kind of being squished, are the people who make it all work, the workers. And they make the point that, the capitalists everybody's being fed by the workers, supported by the workers. And Ayn Rand makes the point in What is Capitalism and in Atlas Shrugged. Now, the real pyramid of ability is the man who starts an enterprise, the thinker, the creator, the producer, the person who uses his rational faculty at a level above and beyond, more than most of us do, more than most of us think we could do, even though I would argue we could. And he starts a business and he employs employees and eventually brings in managers, and you've got levels in the business. And different managers bring in organizational skills and the ability to motivate employees, and all the way up and down the line. And at the very bottom, you've got people who are, they're doing an honest day's work, but they're not bringing independent thought in. Some of them are. Eventually they get promoted and work their way up. But just, the average line worker who's just happy doing what he's doing. He's taking actions somebody else invented, designed, created. He's doing what he's paid to do. He's not adding any improvements, any ideas, any creation. He's just earning his wage. And then you have people sort of on the side, like the janitors, people who are only capable of really basic actions. And Ayn Rand makes the point that what makes those jobs possible, that production the whole enterprise of producing whatever it's producing, what makes all of that possible is not the line worker, it's not the janitor. In the beginning, it's not even management. It's that man at the top who thinks, who creates, who designs, who produces, who says, I am going to make this happen. And here's her point with regard to the pyramid. The man at the top gets the least from all the people down below. He's not getting the benefit of any of their thinking, other than just the actions they're taking to keep the wheels turning. He's only getting whatever money, and it might be a lot of money, but he's only getting whatever money he makes, whatever his enterprise is able to create or produce. But the people at the bottom of the pyramid, they are getting an opportunity which they on their own could never have conceived, much less made happen. The pyramid is exactly upside down. The further down the pyramid you go, the more you are receiving that you yourself never created and produced. The ideas, the enterprise, the building, the capital, the initiative. So when I come out of reading an essay like What is Capitalism, or watching her presented at the Ford Hall Forum, my immediate thought is, I'm actually very proud of the role that I have played in every business I've ever worked for. And at the same time, I realize I've never been taken advantage of. I've never taken a job where anybody was able to take advantage of me. There may have been jobs I kept longer than I should have, that I was foolish for accepting. But the options have always been mine. And the options are yours. If you're in a job right now, I don't know about around the world, but in America, you can walk out anytime you want. Not all the employers have that option. A lot of times they have to have a good reason to fire you, and they better have documentation or you can come after them. But the power is entirely in your hands. Whether you're choosing to keep a job or start a business or do something that does a little bit of both. Yeah, Greg says, the muscles of the blacksmith to the production of railroad rails working for Hank Rearden. If you haven't read Atlas Shrugged or haven't read it in a while, you absolutely need to. You absolutely must. But I was so inspired by the discussions we had about that last night and just rereading the article that I feel even more than my usual amount of profound gratitude for the degree of capitalism that we do have in this mixed economy.
Oh.
Yes, Christopher Smith says a rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah. Yeah. Like tax the rich doesn't address the help the poor mentality to develop a keen sense of envy. It sure does. It absolutely does.
Yeah. Well, we've got 10 minutes here. From until we reach 5 minutes. So let's do some.
Well, I've said everything that I wanted to say this week, and again, I wrap up with the point that appreciating all of that makes me appreciate all of that. You know, the times when I've been a relatively low-level employee in an industry, times when I have been a consultant and contractor and self-employed, and the times when I've worked for a large corporation and was very well paid for that because I produced quite a lot for that company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The way to make a ton of money, again, if you want to make a ton of money, if you want to create an extraordinary amount of wealth, you're going to have to do something extraordinary, but it's not that hard if you can get yourself to do things. Let me put it simplistically. If you can get yourself to do things you don't want to do, it's all too easy to say, well, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, or I don't want to drop ship, or I don't want to be a salesman, or I don't want to. Okay, that's okay if you don't want to do those things. Just, okay, I guess I don't want to be wealthy, or at least not to be wealthy by those means. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. You can do that. And there's a certain solace in knowing, I guess I don't want to be a multimillionaire if it means spending a lot of time doing things I don't want to do and being the kind of person I don't want to be. And that's okay too, assuming you are earning enough money to have a good life and you're enjoying it.
Well, I'll say this, that in terms of creating things or creativity applied to, even if it's just a job that you have, that you're working with somebody else and you're getting a paycheck, there's nothing wrong with that. And applying creativity in that situation is really, really good. I think it's also extremely good if you go outside of the context of working with somebody else and think, how can I apply that creativity to come up with some service or product or both that I can call my own, that I can say this is my own business, this is my own LLC, this is my own whatever it is, and come up with that. I have, it's funny because I actually have quite a few ideas of things that I can do, but I'd have to quit my job in order to do them because I just don't have enough time in the day. But yeah, it's fun to keep thinking of those things and not giving up on them. And maybe at some point, I can get a patent on trampoline karaoke, and
I think you
we can sell trampoline karaoke kits that come with the trampoline and the karaoke. I know. Something along those lines. Yeah, it's good. Now there's some questions here in the chat. One is from Stephen. Can you tell me more about Paul Larkin from Atlas Shrugged? He's an interesting character. Does he try to have the best of both worlds, access to the Taggarts and the Reardons of the world? I wouldn't call that the best of both worlds.
Yeah, Paul Larkin is actually a horrible person, but he's a weak, horrible person.
Yeah.
He's the kind of person who had enough interest in being a businessman that he's got a certain position and amount of clout, but he's an extraordinarily weak person. He's compromising with the looters and the dishonest and the state and the Wesley Mouch, and you can compare him to characters who don't achieve a level of greatness but who are morally clean, like Eddie Willers, for example.
Yes.
Eddie Willers is not somebody who could have produced or would have produced a large business. But he's very good at what he does. He even rises to the challenge of taking over the operating department when Dagny goes away for a while.
Yep.
As opposed to Paul Larkin, who is dishonest, and in some ways being weak is even worse than being dishonest, because he sacrifices Hank Rearden to the looters. And because of his friendship with Rearden, he's able to do that in a way that the looters themselves couldn't necessarily do. Sometimes your worst enemy is a friend who betrays you and not just somebody who's obviously an enemy. No, Larkin is contemptible, but he's not strong in any way, so he's just loathsome. He's not vicious, but he is rotten.
Well, I might ascribe some viciousness to him when Hank Rearden has to break up all of his concerns, iron ore and things like that. I forget exactly which. He gives it to Paul Larkin, and he says, he basically said, "Listen, Paul, if you are an honest man, you will, live up to a spoken contract. We can't put this in writing, but you can keep sending me money, based on the fact that these mines are actually mine."
Yeah, actually, he doesn't even ask for the money. He just says, "Sell me the ore when I need it."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and you're right. Larkin is like, "Well, of course, you don't have to like talk like that. Of course, I'm not going to betray." And then he totally betrays him. But even before the betrayal, yeah, you're right. Larkin is just horrible during that conversation.
Larkin simultaneously wants to gain the skills and genius of an industrialist through osmosis, and he doesn't want to do the work to get that way or figure out exactly what Hank Rearden did to get that way, but he wants the title of it. And when it's obvious that he doesn't have either, it's an affront to him, and he feels hurt. He feels so hurt because Hank is actually calling a spade here. And he is contemptible.
Stephen Katz asks, who are the characters in Atlas Shrugged who are not heroes nor villains? And he says, well, Eddie and Cheryl. And he says Rick Allen. I think you mean
Jeff Allen.
Jeff Allen, yeah, the bum on the. And Jeff Allen, was a bit of a mixed case too, but he's honest by the time Dagny sees him. Yeah, there aren't that many characters who don't have really anything interesting about them in that regard, so they're mixed. To me, somebody like Cheryl Taggart, I guess she's not a hero, but she's 100% virtuous. She's a good person.
She's a hero of her own life in that way of she got out of a bad situation with her family. And she decided to go in, and even she had to work as at a counter in a drugstore in New York City. At least she's in New York City.
Yeah.
At least she's trading with people in that city that she loves, and she also thinks, erroneously that whoever runs Taggart Transcontinental is heroic. She doesn't realize that James Taggart is not. So, but as far as just like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think. Most of the people in Atlas Shrugged who are on the good side are selfish. In other words, they're doing things for their own self-interest. They work for themselves. They create for themselves. They love the doing, as Howard Rourke would say. They've got even I don't know. I would say that. What do you think of Dan Conway? He ends up giving up.
Yeah, that's why I say there are characters in the book who aren't bad. They're just not heroes.
Right.
Dan Conway would be one like that.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be not villain nor hero. Yeah, you could put him in that category.
Yeah, but Eddie Willers is nothing like Paul Larkin.
Yeah, and morally he is a hero.
Yes.
But yeah, he's not a man of great ability. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to categorize him that way because Ayn Rand's character, they're much more complex than people give her credit for. Where are you going to put the wet nurse? Hero, villain, both, neither?
Well, he was a coming of age story.
Yeah.
And that's Tony was his name, and he grew into a better person, and yeah.
Christopher Smith says, well, what kind of idiot decides to write novels for a living? I didn't, she didn't get into it for the money, worked really hard and smart. The worked really hard and smart part is kind of the point that I'm trying to make here, because, for example, as a musician, if you wanted to make a living as a musician, I've obviously known a lot of musicians over the years, and part of the challenge there is, kind of like with the rest of us, a lot of musicians don't want to make a living as a musician. I mean, if that means spending a lot of time woodshedding, maybe actually going to college and studying music, or spending a substantial amount of time in cover bands, for example, playing music that's not your favorite music until you can get to the point where you can then go out and do more of what you want to do. Part of the challenge is, if you want to do well at something, you're going to have to do well at it. You're going to have to be really good. It's one of the mistakes I made when I was young and kind of wanted to be a musician, is I didn't realize, or I didn't fully accept, well, then you're going to have to spend 8 hours a day practicing, 5 days a week. What are you talking about? A full-time job that you're not even getting paid for and working your fingers to the bone? And when I read about other musicians who've made it, that doesn't seem to be part of their story. Well, first of all, it is a part of their story, or at least for a lot of them it is. Very few people have such natural talent that they don't have to spend years woodshedding. And the other thing is, if you want to get good at anything, you've got to actually do it. You've got to do the work. I like the old expression, pay your dues, but I hear a lot of objectivists think that sounds too much like duty. No, it's not duty. It is what it takes. The question isn't, do you want to be a musician who earns a living as a musician? The question is, do you want to do what it takes to be a musician who works as a musician for a living and earns a living? And I have to admit to myself that I didn't fully appreciate that when I was younger, and B, I didn't want it bad enough. Which is kind of a sad thing to say, because I love music, I love playing music, but was I ready to set everything else aside? If you're not sure what that looks like, see the film Whiplash, and then realize that's a total exaggeration, but not that much of what it takes if you're young, you want to be a professional musician, good enough that you can get regular jobs and earn a living at it. And I make that point because it applies to just about everything else. Well, I don't want to be a musician. I want to be a computer programmer. Okay, you can definitely do that for a living. All you've got to do is be really good at it. Oh, well, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Well, what do you got to do to be really, really good at it? Same thing with everything.
Yeah, Wes on YouTube here, he says, if there's anything I would love to get lay people to respect, it is the importance of production. And yeah, when we were reading What is Capitalism, there was interesting, let's see here. Yeah, there's Ayn Rand brilliantly mentions the fact that in terms of political economy, or people studying politics and economics and how those two should work together or not, she says political economy was in effect a science starting in midstream. It observed that men were producing and trading, and it took for granted that they had always done so and always would. It accepted this fact as the given, requiring no further consideration, and it addressed itself to the problem of how to devise the best way for the, quote, community to dispose of human effort. Nobody really wants to talk about, I mean, what really kills me is that people don't have the pride in themselves for how productive they are. They may say things like, oh, well, I can support my family and that makes me proud. Okay, that's great. But what does it really mean to produce? What does it really mean to be good at your job and to create? What exactly are you proud of? And how can you be proud in a culture where they're telling you that the pride is basically a sin?
I wouldn't want to go that far because I know a lot of good people
Yeah.
who've been very successful and they are proud of what they've done. And they're not explicit. They're not as philosophical as they could be, but they get it. They're proud of themselves. They're proud of what they've created. They're proud of what they've produced.
But it's not on their minds every day. It's not something they actually think about or work to think about.
Maybe.
And if they did, they would be a lot happier in their jobs. They would be a lot happier in their life. I'm just thinking, speaking from experience, throughout all the jobs that I had, working with people who they just want to get through the day and they just want to get by.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the better people that I've known.
Yeah. Well, there are better people out there, of course. But yeah, I mean, in terms of where does production come from? And what does it actually take? And philosophically, what does philosophy say about productiveness? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I think I've made every point I wanted to make. Is there anything else in the chat that we should address? I've been reading. There's some good stuff and some very funny stuff in there, too.
Somebody mentioned, wait a minute. Is it Kirk Wilcox or Rick Wilcox?
Kirk
Wilcox.
Kirk Wilcox. That's right. I didn't put him in there.
Yes.
I always think of him as talking about gaming, but I guess he does other stuff too. I know he's big on gaming.
Yes.
But thank you. I will add that. I haven't watched any of his stuff in a while. I'll have to give it a listen.
Yeah, it's been a while. And we also talked about a particular podcaster or podcasters who we won't mention. In terms of who should not be on the roll call.
Oh. There's a lot of people who should not be on the roll call. Oh, somebody asks about Ayn Rand fans. No, the Ayn Rand fans podcast I regard as I take that back. I don't regard it. It's 102% cringe. So why? And they say horrible things.
There's not much value in it, I'll just say.
And one of the reasons why I don't talk about them is I don't want to be like them, in that I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about things I criticize.
Yeah.
And there are other people doing that, and we'll let them do that, and that's fine. For example, I'm a big Yaron Brook fan. It's not that I don't have any criticisms of Yaron Brook. If I didn't have any, Yaron would say, well, then you're obviously not taking me seriously. It's that Yaron provides so much value that you can shrug off your disagreements with him. Apparently some people are unable to do that. But
we've got the question is, what is the difference between floating abstraction and a stolen concept? And Greg says, floating abstractions feel like you're trying to nail Jell-O to a tree. Great answer. Or a cute one, I should say.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, a stolen concept is something very specific. It's using a concept while undermining the concepts or the ideas on which it's based. And a specific example doesn't come to mind. Whereas a floating abstraction is taking a higher level concept and not grounding it.
Right.
Not contradicting its grounding, but just not grounding it. Not grounding it in reality.
Yeah.
I suppose a particular floating abstraction could also be a stolen concept. Depends on how it's being used, how it's being treated. But yeah, I like that. Nail jello to a tree.
Yep, yep. Well, let's see here. So it is the 10th. The next show is going to be on the 17th, and the show after that, we're going to be having
Augustina?
Augustina, what is it?
Vergara Cid.
Vergara, I'm sorry. Vergara Cid. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be interviewing her with regard to immigration. And next week, I'm sure we'll come up with something.
Yeah, I don't have a topic for next week, so feel free to let me know if you have any suggestions, things you would like to hear us talk about for 5 minutes. Otherwise, yeah, we went longer than expected. So I will, let's see. What do I need to do before we wrap up? What I need to do is I need to ask you to like the show. We're working on our YouTube likes, so you can like it on Facebook Live too, but especially on YouTube, please give the show a like. Share it if you think there's somebody who would be interested in it, or even if you don't. I mean, it's social media, so you just share it blindly and everybody finds it and it becomes immensely popular and we get to 1,000 subscriptions, which we need in order to get those extra things like monetization. Speaking of monetization, you're like, well, then how can I help support the show? Well, patreon.com/Robert Nasir is where some of you already do. If you would like to join those good people, please go to robertnasir.com, scroll to the bottom, you'll find the links there, everything that you need to do. And that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I can't believe we ran as long as we did. But thank you for joining us. Thank you to those of you who stuck it out until the end. I will be saving the chat in case I missed any of your comments. Some of them were very funny this week and insightful as well. Thank you for that.
Yep.
And with that said, all that is left is for me to wish you all of the success, including the money, that you so richly deserve. Well, the money part, you might have to tweak things a bit, make it a little more money-oriented, a little less, you do what's going to work for you. So, all of the success that you so richly deserve, and what was that other thing? I'm forgetting something. Oh, yeah! As always, we wish you luck.